Now that you know how to cast on, I'm going to show you how to knit. This is the basic knit stitch. This is probably 70% of all of the knitting you will need to know until you get into the advanced stuff. So anyway, you have your cast on stitches on your left hand needle, and you're going to hold this needle like a dinner knife, like you're going to cut into something with it. Your right hand needle is held the same way, and your yarn is going to be kind of awkward to coordinate at first, but you always have this tail hanging off that doesn't go into your ball of yarn, and it kind of gets in your way, as do your cables sometimes, but you just kind of shove them out of the way for right now. And you want to make sure when you start knitting that you're working with this one that goes into your ball. And I did switch to a lighter color of yarn so you guys could see what I was doing because the black wasn't really showing up. So anyway, the way you hold this is really personal preference. My mother wraps it twice around her pinky and then comes over her index finger like this. I usually take it and go over the pinky, under the ring finger, over the middle finger, and then around the index finger. The important thing is to have it coming up and over your index finger, and the rest of that will just kind of fall into place when you get there. It just takes, practice and figuring out what style you like. So I hold mine like this. I've got this in my hand like a dinner knife, this other one like a dinner knife. And in order to start knitting, you want to put your needle in left to right, which is very counterintuitive. So put your needle in left to right and then wrap your working yarn around it. Pull this out of that loop you just went into and then slide the old stitch off your needle. So you have a new stitch on your needle now. Same thing with the next stitch. Sorry, I can't really see through my camera here, so bear with me. Left to right like you're reading a book. Wrap your yarn around, pull it back out that loop, and kick that old stitch off. And you're going to go all the way across this way, just following along. I'm going to keep going and just kind of go really slow. And keep sliding your stitches up towards the end, but you want to make sure that your second stitch stays fairly far away from the edge or you'll start pulling them off when you're knitting. So if I start knitting this stitch and this one pops off too, it's going to cause trouble for me, and usually it's faster just to start over and redo your cast on at that point. So you just want to try and make sure that you knit every stitch, that you don't drop any of them off of your needles. And keep going, left to right, wrap around, pull it back through, and kick it off your needle. Left to right, wrap around, pull it back through, and kick it off your needle. And you'll notice with the yarn I'm using here, you can kind of see the separate strands in each stitch. I don't know why I won't focus on that, but be kind of careful not to go in like halfway through a stitch and only grab some of it. You want to make sure you get all the way around and you're going through this nice big hole in the middle. And you can stretch that as much as you need to. There's actually a lot of room in there for you to stretch it out, because when I first started knitting, I had issues with once I'd get it through the loop. Sorry, the stitch is apparently really tight. I'd get it through this loop and wrap around, and then I wasn't able to pull this back out without dropping that yarn off my needle. And all you need to do if you're having that problem is just stretch that stitch a little wider so you've got a lot of space to pull the tip of your needle out like this, and you don't have to worry about that new stitch falling off, and then you just kick the old one off of your old needle. So all the way to the end, working left to right through the stitches, but right to left across your needles, and when you get to the very end, your left hand needle will be empty. And what you do from here is switch hands. So this becomes your left hand needle because it's got all the stitches on it. You move the other needle to your right hand and you start over. So knit, in left to right, wrap your yarn around, pull it back out, and slide the old stitch off. Left to right, wrap around, pull it back through, and slide the old stitch off. And if you have to play this video 1,000 times to get all the way through a scarf, then you do that. I can't tell you how many times I watched a video over and over again at half speed and slow motion just to kind of see the maneuvers and figure out what you're doing. And you'll notice my right index finger here is kind of guiding things along. It's keeping the left hand stitch from falling off the needle while I'm grabbing it, and then it's pulling it down here. When I wrap this stitch, I hold it on with my index finger while I pull the needle through so it doesn't slip off the tip. And you just do this however is comfortable for your hands and however works for you to get through a row. So that's 2 rows done. And you can see I'm starting to get kind of a fabric here. And you just keep going like that until you have a bit long enough to be a scarf.